radio.
Greetings! We're bringing this video to you before Spa, pre-Spa.
Pre-Spa. We've been promising each other and you guys for a long time.
Yes. All of our 23 or so subscribers.
Don't be like that, Joel. We've got to start somewhere. That's fine. Hey,
And we do it for fun. We are doing it for fun.
We do it for us because we love doing it, and it's just a whole lot of fun to shoot some stuff about F1.
So as we've been talking about for a while now, and I think we're not the only people to have observed this. This year, this season, Valterri Bottas has been having some bad luck. And we've always had this idea that, you know, what would have happened if Bottas had actually not run into bad luck in certain scenarios. And so Jason in particular has done a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of going back, going through the past races, making some decisions on would he have actually finished in a certain position rather than other positions? How does that now affect the total playing field? And we've tried to be as realistic about it as possible. So
that's it.
Tell the people exactly what are our caveats, Jason.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of caveats just in case there's a few people that are going to jump on and say, oh, well, you forgot this and you didn't do that. And we acknowledge there's a number of anomalies that could and possibly shouldn't make the cut. However...
But just to point out, now this is on the interwebs, it must be true.
It must be true. That's right. No fake news here in this channel. But, look, pardon for the read, but I think it's important to note that the basis of what we've looked at here for Bottas' bad luck having befallen him this year and the points adjustments that both Joel and I have looked at are purely and simply related to if we calculated a points adjustment based on an alteration to his standings if bad luck hadn't fallen his way, taking out or removing any mechanical issues that in the normal course of racing could possibly happen anyway, what would it look like? Okay, so that's one of the key things here, because you could make an argument for saying, well, as we will in a moment, well, you're actually making allowance for a bad pit stop with Bottas. The same can be said for bad pit stop strategies in Melbourne with Hamilton. Why didn't you adjust Hamilton? This is a Bottas-only video.
And the same thing that happened to Kimi and to Seb in Hungary.
That's correct. Yeah. And so we think we've been very generous in our assessment of the race add-backs that we're allowing for here. And it's on that strength of that we've looked at that is the key premise of what we're discussing. So some of the other call-outs, if we made any adjustments to this where Bottas was involved in a racing incident with another driver and that other driver has caused an incident, such as the one in France with Vettel, then we will also make an allowance for Vettel being in the race and racing through to the end and assuming that he will be in the race without effectively being affected by any race incident himself. So the adjustment is made to Vettel also.
Correct.
Second to that, it needs to be noted that we don't assume that Vettel or another racer would overtake Bottas and that racing would occur in the normal course of racing. And so Bottas placed second in qualifying, started in second, and a race incident didn't occur. That just because we or somebody out there thinks Vettel is a better racer, Vettel would have overtaken him, we're not assuming that to be the case. You can't assume that that is the case. And we've talked, and check out our videos above, on some of the races Joel has said, you know, the fantastic effort that Bottas has done in defending off people like Vettel. So it's not always a given that a race overtake will occur, therefore adjusting our races.
That's right. And just to put that into perspective, all through this season, probably the most common comment that I personally have made is the fact that it's not even possible to argue the fact that Bottas is an extremely good defensive driver. He hasn't done a whole lot in terms of the overtaking department this season, but then arguably he hasn't had to, or he hasn't been in a position to be able to demonstrate that. But all things said and done, this is the results that we've now come up with.
That's right. So
Jason, if you would like to do us the honours and run us through the 12 races up until now.
I will do that quickly, but just before I do, there's one more caveat, and that is if we have made an adjustment, it obviously would therefore have further effects to the rest of the field. Those adjustments have also been allowed for. Alrighty. So look, we've started off, and we'll quickly give you guys a quick recap on the entire season. So Joel, we had Melbourne first as race number 1, okay, and we had Vettel placing first, Hamilton second, and Raikkonen in third.
Yep.
We don't believe there are any race incidents involved in Melbourne that otherwise require a change. Bahrain, race number 2, Vettel first, Bottas second, Hamilton third. Again, no race incidents that we've come across suspect shouldn't otherwise be altered.
Yep.
China is virtually the same thing, no race incidents. But for a recap, Ricciardo first, that one, Bottas second, and Raikkonen in third. Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan.
This is an exciting one.
The first one, yep.
Hamilton first, Raikkonen second, and Perez in his only race this year, or outside the top 6,
Yes.
the only other person that's actually podiumed this year. Azerbaijan will be looked at. Race number 5, we have Spain. Hamilton first, Bottas second, Verstappen third, and again,
No incidents with Bottas.
Exactly. Monaco, race number 6, Ricciardo first, Vettel second, Hamilton third, no race incidents. Canada is the next race as we shoot across the Atlantic there. Vettel first, Bottas second, Verstappen third in that one.
Yep, and no more incidents in this case either with Bottas.
Precisely.
And now we talk about France.
And we had an incident there which we'll be analysing, okay? But Hamilton was first in this race. Verstappen took advantage of the incident and inherited second, Raikkonen third.
Yes.
Austria. This is the second of the triple headers, if you'll remember. We had Verstappen first, Raikkonen second, Vettel third.
Yep, and no incidents with Bottas there requiring adjustment.
Exactly. Over to Silverstone in UK.
Silverstone.
Silverstone. Vettel first, Hamilton second, Raikkonen third.
Yep.
And no incidents there to speak of. Germany. Okay, we will be calling out Germany in this instance. This is the third of the races that we'll be looking to analyse. Hamilton first, Bottas second, Raikkonen third. Hungary is borderline, but we'll talk a little bit later on about that. And for all intents and purposes, we're not going to be looking at making any alterations here. But Hamilton first, Vettel second, Raikkonen third. And that brings us to the end of race 12, end of the triple headers.
Pre-Spa.
Pre-Spa. So that's really a quick summary of how it all went.
That's right. So, speak to us, Jason. What actually occurred in Azerbaijan to warrant us wanting to make a change?
Well, mate, in a word, chaos. Chaos and carnage.
Caused by?
Well, the Red Bulls, in and of themselves, first of all, had a massive inter-team issue there that they had to deal with in the days and weeks to follow.
So, just as a very, very quick recap, basically you have a scenario where Verstappen and Ricciardo were battling it out with each other.
Right.
Came into a scenario where Max had actually overtaken him coming into a corner, closed off the space. Ricciardo did not have enough distance to put his brakes on into the back of Verstappen. Both Red Bulls out of the race.
Exactly. And look, plenty of other incidents that happened before that, mind you. I mean, McLarens and the Force Indies were all involved in something, but that was the first of the biggies. A number of people took some pit stops there. But then in the closing races, and this is where it really all sort of fell apart for a few people, on lap 48. Or actually, in fact, lap 47, you'll remember that Vettel was coming in for a deep move at the end of the pit straight and overtook Bottas in first at the time, Hamilton in second, and overbrake the corner and shot through, locking up, which then meant that that Bottas still retained first and Hamilton still maintained second at that point, I think it may be. But it was the next lap after that, lap 48.
Due to some debris still left on the field, Bottas picked up some damage to his tyres, which ultimately led into a full-blown puncture.
Exactly.
Lap 51?
Lap 48.
Lap 48?
Lap 48.
Okay.
DNF,
Yeah.
So a very unfortunate, non-mechanical, non-driver issue, I think it's fair to say.
I can still actually remember the post-race interview with Lewis actually saying that it's kind of regrettable that he picked up the win in that particular moment.
Absolutely. And look, great sportsmanship there, but I think even by that admission, Hamilton said he was gifted first. And if you were making race adjustments, it certainly has to be said that that's probably one that needs to be looked at.
Definitely.
And so we had assumed that from lap 48, particularly given there was only really 3 laps through to lap 51 before the race closed out.
That's right.
And conceivably a very, very tight street circuit in parts, that the overtaking opportunities were very minimal.
Yes.
Ferrari still had the upper edge on the mechanicals in terms of speed and reliability. However, is it fair to say that there would have been an overtake that would have been caused? Probably not.
Unlikely.
Unlikely. So we would make a strong argument for saying, Joel, that from 48 to 51, if the normal course of race events unfolded, he would have been in first and would have made the first podium for him in first place for the year. So in that scenario, we're adjusting the points for him in that race, and we'll talk about those in a moment.
Yep. So, the second race that we need to call out now is the incident that actually happened in France. And as a quick recap, very, very early on, in fact, I'm pretty sure it's right off the bat, you have a scenario where Vettel cuts in between Lewis and Bottas, thinking he can actually take him to first position. But what actually happened was he shot, quite accidentally of course, into the back of Bottas, causing them both to spin out of control. Now, what resulted of that, of course, was the fact that Vettel managed to recover, got back to his pit, and they replaced all his bits and pieces. Off he goes. Valterri Bottas, unfortunately, incurred so much damage to the floor of his car, it was almost impossible to recover from the amount of damage he caused himself, which of course meant that he was not in a position to start overtaking even the back end of the field, resulting in him not DNFing, but he never picked up a decent place. In fact, what did he finish?
P7.
So he actually finished outside the top 6. Break it down for us, Jason.
Well, I think you've summed it up beautifully, Joel. Look, in a nutshell, he had all that damage, and apart from Vettel being able to change that front wing of his, which was a pit stop, sure, which sent him back in the field, fine, but he was able to then race back into contention. But you rightfully pointed out, there was too much sustained aero damage on the floor, which meant that he had inherent issues all the way through the race, even with his tyres being changed.
That's right.
So he wasn't able to effectively recover like Vettel did. So really the essence of this argument is, if he was able to maintain a P2 and Vettel didn't close the gap and create the incident, where would this have meant that both races would have ended up finishing? Well, notwithstanding that Vettel ultimately finished in P5.
Yes, which was an outstanding performance by Seb, just to call that out.
And he dropped all the way back.
Ultimately got into P3, but due to tyre degradation, had to fall back. Still picks up P5, but was an amazing race for him to recover that much in the first place. However, given that we're now adjusting this scenario, P1 would be?
P1 would still theoretically be Lewis in this scenario, but it's arguable, that Bottas wouldn't have dropped below P2, and particularly given that if Vettel was able to race his way back into P3 at least, by default, the argument would rest at seeing Bottas in P2, notwithstanding Verstappen, who got P2 anyway, wouldn't have inherited that second place.
Let's call it a P1, P2, Mercedes, and P3 Vettel.
There's a possibility that he would have been on the podium, which is the logic applied here, and at worst, we believe P3, but we've applied P2 simply because he started in quite a great position too.
Our third and final change that we want to make, and that occurred in Hockenheim, Germany.
That's right.
Tell us what happened.
Well, look, essentially, this was the race, if we remember, where Vettel DNF'd. All right, so we had inclement weather, the rain that never came.
The rain that never came. That's right.
All right, and it's true. It sent a lot of teams scurrying for many different types of tyre choices, all the way from wets through to...
All wets! Toro Rosso, Mr. Gasly. Seriously. Now Red Bull is your problem.
It is your problem. And as we'll reveal in another video, probably a very worthwhile problem if you have. A very affordable driver, I think you discovered.
That's our next video. Now, what's interesting in this, of course, is that through the 2018 season, off the back of our Bottas video that we're now constructing and all these facts and figures, we've now been tracking the performance of all the drivers on the track and what they're legitimately worth in terms of the amount of points that they've generated for the teams that they belong to and how much they've been paid. And it's quite an interesting finding.
And pound for pound, Gasly is one of the biggest.
He's up there.
So he's a bargain, basically. So if we remember here, this was on the lap 52 incident where Vettel finally did go off, much to his dismay, and a very, very sad event there. However, it did really alter the standings quite a fair bit because he was in front to that point in the championship.
He was going to win it, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
It was his race to lose.
He certainly was. But what happened after that was, with the inclement weather closing in, there were certain teams through tyre degradation and others just trying to pick the weather that decided on tyre changes. Now, Mercedes actually sent Bottas into the pits at this point, and according to their average pit stop times, which is depending on the circuit anywhere between just shy of 2 seconds, arguably it's 2, but some say it's 1.9, through to somewhere in the order of about 2.5, maybe longer if it's a slow pit stop. I understand this one was north of 3. Yeah. So let's call it a second. When it's
not quite as bad as the Ferrari 4.7 seconds.
No.
In Budapest.
So anyway, in this scenario here, we're saying Hungary.
Sorry.
We're saying that there's probably another second that was added on his time unnecessarily. Now, if you remember when he came out of the pits, he was literally just behind Hamilton at this particular point. Vettel had fallen off by this stage, a DNF, and as a result of that, Hamilton was in the lead. That's correct. There was a whole incident around Hamilton going in and not going into the pits that we've also talked about. However, Hamilton was out on older tyres. Bottas came out on fresher tyres, but on the same tyres as Hamilton's. But because they had, I think it was a virtual safety car, or it might have been a safety car, but virtual safety car at least. Tyres, the Hamilton's tyres had cooled, and getting them back up to race pace on an older set meant that it took a little bit more settling in terms of laps to follow before we can get the heat back in on this slightly wetter track. But Bottas came out on fresher tyres that heat up quicker and was right behind Hamilton. And then in the lap, or there were 2 laps to follow, there was a challenge mounted by Bottas on Hamilton, which he was almost successful. And then the team stepped in, much to a contradiction made by Toto Wolff in the seasons prior, particularly with Hamilton and Rosberg, in saying that they'll never intervene again with respects to team orders. This was the instance where the team had actually issued orders to Bottas.
Which the question was, first of all,
yeah,
we want you to hold back.
We want you to hold back, and he went okay. So 2 things. Imagine if the pit stop 1 second delay hadn't occurred, he'd conceivably be at or in front of Hamilton
conspiracy theory
on the outlap. And secondly, if he was allowed to challenge more than once after the first time he was just unsuccessful, would he have gotten past? I beg the question, the pit stop had the largest part to play.
Yes, absolutely.
If he had that extra less than a second delay with the heat that he already had, notwithstanding he almost overtook him anyway.
That's correct.
He would have inherited first.
That's right.
So this would definitely be a race.
And then you'd have a situation, sorry to interrupt you there, Jason, then we have a situation where you actually have Lewis who's trying to play catch up to Valtteri.
Yeah.
Now, I do believe that Jason is correct in this, and you would have actually had Bottas coming in first place in this scenario, arguably.
As a result, as we said before, he came in P2. So, really, that's the breakdown.
So, those are the 3 races that we believe that need to be adjusted. This is now the result of what that looks like.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Well, it's very, very interesting because the current standings, as we have them, Joel, are that we know Hamilton is a full 24 points in front of Vettel, which, bar 1 point, is a full race. Now, it would virtually have to take Hamilton a DNF in this next race for him to lose the championships. However...
Which, sorry, just to interrupt you there, apparently there's going to be rain this weekend in Spa. I'm calling it now. Lewis.
What, DNF?
No, he's going to win. Lewis will win.
Okay.
P1, Lewis.
I thought we're going to the DNF channel here.
No.
Yeah, right. Okay.
No, come on. Let's be honest.
So, he's 24 points behind Vettel at the moment. And we know that Bottas is sitting in 4th at the moment. Now, Raikkonen's another 43 points behind Vettel, and Bottas is another 14 points behind that. If we made those 3 race adjustments, Joel, we made Azerbaijan, we made France, and we made the adjustments to Germany. And by the way, not all of them are P1s, mind you, they're podium standings.
We've tried to be as realistic as possible, just to reiterate that.
What this means is there's obviously a readjustment. First and foremost, obviously, Perez doesn't get his P3 in Azerbaijan.
Correct.
But that's not the major event.
Yep.
Max doesn't get his P2 in France.
And on top of that, we have another scenario where even Sebastian Vettel picks up more points than he previously did because of, again, no incident that occurred at the beginning of the race in France.
Correct. A very interesting note on that actually is that more often than not, the cases are that if a rearward-facing competitor doesn't actually incur an issue if they're placing in front of you in a race, and everyone naturally finishes the race, it can actually be to your benefit, as you just indicated there. Vettel, in this example here, is currently sitting on 189 points, 24 points behind Hamilton. If we made these adjustments to the 3 races we've talked about, with Bottas getting P1 in Azerbaijan and Germany, with a P2 in France,
and Sebastian picking up P3 in France,
then essentially what happens is Hamilton's still leading the championships, but only by a paltry 7 points at 199. Vettel is currently in 189, improves to 192, so and he goes up by 3 points, but the gap is only 7 points to Hamilton. But Bottas is sitting in third, and he's only sitting 16 points behind Hamilton. So the 7-point differential between Hamilton and Vettel, and the 16 points between Bottas and Vettel there, means that he's 23 points behind Hamilton. He is still also within 1 race of becoming a
world
championship leader.
He's basically within striking distance of potentially winning the world championship. And what's interesting is actually for Kimi's actually doesn't really get pushed that far behind either.
Yeah. Kimi, who's sitting on 146, does unfortunately befallen to a slight points reduction from 146 to 138. But it's not massive because the top tier, the Hamilton Vettel, sort of shrinks somewhat and the other two come closer. So really the spread of the competition is more condensed if this point adjustment was made. And the same really can also be said for Ricciardo. Ricciardo's sitting on 118 at the moment. He drops to 114, but Verstappen drops from 105 to 99. So the more compelling argument of Ricciardo being, second field to Verstappen is an interesting point.
And is another video for another day in itself.
Well, particularly given now that he's switched over to Renault, right?
So, as you can see, just pure speculation on our behalf on how we felt the races may have fallen out if Bottas had not basically been the subject of just pure and simple bad juju.
That's right.
But closing thoughts, Bottas, he very, very well deserves that seat at Mercedes.
And they've got him, I believe, for a $12 million bargain based on his results. And if he was living up to the results that we say they should have been revised to, should none of that bad luck have befallen him, not mechanical, but bad luck, this would be one hell of a season, I can give you a tip. But it's not over yet, so, we've got Spa coming up this weekend, Joel. It's going to be an awesome race.
It's been too long. It's been too long between races.
Forget the triple headers. Stuff another race in there.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway.
But we'll see you all in straight after Spa.
We will.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Alright.
Yeah, have you done your hair? You juice it up a little bit.
I've just put my hat on.
No, leave it off. No, leave it off. Oh, I think people need to see you.
It's a prop.
A la natural.
What are you talking about?
So this is an a la natural Joel video.